Leo let out a tired sigh as he steered through the icy road. He was heading home after a long, draining shift. He'd been behind the wheel for hours, and the weight of exhaustion was starting to pull at his eyes. But just then, something unusual appeared up ahead, a figure in the middle of the road. As he got closer, he realized it was a woman. He quickly pulled over and jumped out to check if she was okay. She was lying there, completely still. His chest tightened. He leaned down, desperately searching for a pulse, but couldn't feel anything. Then he saw her ID, and something about it made him freeze. Leo's day had been tough. His job was repetitive and mentally draining, and some days he just wanted to quit. But he kept pushing because his family depended on him. They were barely getting by, and money was always on his mind. This wasn't the life he had pictured for himself. Day after day, it was just endless driving, with nothing new. He'd quietly wished something would break the cycle, but he never expected this. As he made his way home, Leo's thoughts kept drifting to his little girl. Her health had become a constant worry. He and his wife had recently gotten news that had completely shaken them. After several hospital visits and test results, the doctors sat them down and shared a devastating update. Their daughter's condition was getting worse. She had developed cysts, and her chances weren't looking good without surgery. The cost was overwhelming. The doctors warned them, without treatment she might not live past 3 more years. Leo felt like his world was crashing down when he heard that. Things only got harder when they were told how much the operation would cost. It was way beyond anything they could afford. The number haunted him, but he made a promise to his wife. He'd find a way. He went to his boss, asked for more hours, and started driving extra shifts, sometimes deep into the night. That's when he spotted the woman lying unconscious on the snowy road. The snow was coming down so hard, Leo could barely see anything. Visibility was nearly zero. He slowed the truck to a crawl and carefully made his way toward the nearby town. The only light on that road came from his own headlights. As they cut through the storm, he thought maybe he was seeing things. There was a shadowy figure just off the road. Leo hit the brakes hard, heart pounding. It looked like a woman, and she wasn't moving. His mind instantly cleared of everything else. Panic rushed in, and sweat started to bead on his forehead. He didn't know what to do, but he had to act. "Hey, lady, are you okay?" Leo shouted from his seat, cracking the window just enough. He hesitated to step out. He still wasn't sure what he was dealing with. But the woman didn't respond. Not even a stir. That made Leo more nervous. He finally climbed out of the truck and stepped cautiously toward her, snow crunching under his boots. As he got closer, he noticed something on the ground beside her. It was an ID card. He picked it up, and when he saw the name, a chill ran down his spine. But even so, he knew he couldn't just stand there. She needed help. He knelt beside her, trying to find a pulse, but felt nothing. Just as he was about to try again, her eyes twitched and slowly began to open. It was like a jolt of life hit her. Leo let out a shaky breath. "Come on, girl. You've got to stay with me. Let's get you to a hospital." He tried to lift her gently, but she looked like she was in rough shape. Leo didn't know what had happened to her, but he didn't want to waste another second. He carefully picked her up and brought her to the truck, turning the heater up as far as it would go. She'd clearly been out in the cold for too long. He grabbed his jacket from the seat and wrapped it around her. She only had on a thin t-shirt. Then, without looking back, he took off for the hospital, driving as fast as he safely could. All that mattered now was getting this girl to safety. Deep down, he wished someone would do the same for his little girl if she were ever in danger. After a little while, the girl began to stir in her seat. She was slowly coming to, and some color returned to her face. A few minutes later, she managed to speak, though her voice was barely a whisper. Leo leaned in, anxious. "Can you hear me?" "What's your name, he asked quickly. Her voice cracked as she replied, "Emily." As soon as she said it, something about the name made Leo's chest tighten. She looked oddly familiar somehow, but he pushed the thought aside. There were more important things to figure out. "Can you tell me what happened?" "How did you end up out there?" he asked gently. Emily glanced down and shook her head slightly. "It's a terrible story." "You really don't want to know," she said, her voice trembling. She looked like she was holding back tears. But Leo knew the hospital staff would have questions, and maybe even the police would get involved. They'd want to know how she ended up unconscious in the snow. He needed answers to help her. "Listen," he said calmly, "you don't have to say everything now. But it might be better if you tell me what happened. That way I can explain things properly." Hearing those words seemed to comfort her, just a little. Maybe it was the way he spoke, careful and calm like a dad would. She finally opened up. Emily said her husband, along with a few other men, had taken her from her home. She explained that everything went downhill after she told her husband her business had gone bankrupt. Leo thought the story sounded a little strange, but he didn't interrupt. Emily continued, saying that once he heard the news, her husband turned violent, hitting and kicking her until she was helpless. Then, in a fit of rage, he decided to get rid of her. She somehow managed to escape and felt lucky to be alive. Leo didn't say anything right away. He just sat with her story for a moment, letting it sink in. It seemed hard to believe. Hurting someone over money like that? But he kept thinking about how she had looked when he found her, lying in the freezing cold, barely breathing. Something terrible had definitely happened. He felt a deep sense of sadness for Emily, and a quiet hope that she'd be okay after everything. But what Leo didn't know yet was that Emily was keeping something big to herself. They made it to the medical center in less than an hour. Leo carried Emily straight to the emergency team, where the doctors and nurses quickly got to work, doing everything they could to keep her stable. For the first time that night, Leo felt himself relax, just a little, but he knew it wouldn't last. The doctor was bound to ask questions, and Leo wasn't sure exactly how to explain everything. Soon he was told that the young woman would need to be admitted. She had signs of frostbite on her arms and legs, and being out in the cold for so long had taken a toll on her body. "Are you her husband or her brother?" the doctor asked, glancing up as he wrote something down. Leo paused. He knew he had to be honest, but he didn't know how things would unfold after that. "No," he said finally, "I'm not related to her. I don't even know her last name." Then he explained how he'd found her unconscious on the roadside and what little she'd told him on the way. The doctor's expression grew serious. "Did you call the police yet?" he asked. Leo shook his head. "No, I just wanted to get her here as fast as I could." Leo understood that the authorities would probably want to question him too, but he wasn't nervous. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong. He'd just done what any decent person should, stopped to help. So when a district officer showed up and started asking him questions, Leo calmly told the whole story. The officer listened, took notes, and after a short pause, nodded. Leo was free to go. He thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. He headed home, tired but relieved. When he walked through the door, his wife and daughter were there waiting, worried sick because he was so late. He sat down and told his wife everything that had happened, every detail about Emily and the rescue. She listened quietly, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing," she said softly. "That girl might not have made it if you hadn't stopped." To her, Leo was a hero. But then her face changed. She had something serious to share, and it wasn't good. His wife did her best to comfort him about what had happened with Emily, but soon she had to share the harder truth. Their daughter's condition was getting worse with each passing day, and things were starting to look really serious. She told Leo how scared she was, and he felt the same helpless worry rise in his chest. Just as his mind was sinking into those thoughts, the phone rang the next morning. It was the hospital. Emily had asked to see him. Leo was a little surprised, but also glad to hear from her. It gave him something else to focus on, even just for a while. Emily said she wanted to thank him in person. Of course, Leo agreed. He felt she could probably use a familiar face after everything. When he arrived, Emily kept thanking him over and over. She said she didn't even want to imagine what might have happened if he hadn't stopped that night. Leo gave her a small smile and said, "Maybe it was just fate. If it wasn't me, someone else would have stopped," he told her. But Emily shook her head. She said he deserved all the credit. And then, to Leo's surprise, she suddenly changed the subject. Apparently, some of the nurses had told her a bit about Leo's situation. Emily gently asked him how his daughter was doing. Caught off guard, Leo hesitated for a second, but then opened up. He explained how his little girl's health was fading fast and how badly she needed surgery. He even told Emily about the long nights he spent on the road just to earn a little more, hoping they could save enough in time. Talking to her made something inside him loosen. He was always trying to stay strong for his wife and daughter, but here he could just say how he really felt. Later, as Leo walked out of the hospital, his mood had shifted. He knew he'd done something good by helping Emily, but it didn't lift the heavy feeling inside him. He still couldn't save his own daughter no matter how hard he worked. The money they had just wasn't enough. Time was running out. If only there was something more I could do, he thought quietly to himself. Leo never heard from Emily again. He hadn't thought to get her contact details, but he hoped she was doing okay. Either way, he had too much on his plate to focus on anything else. Every moment counted now. His daughter's life was hanging in the balance. Even though he was already working himself to the limit, Leo started searching for another job. He and his wife were desperate. But no matter how hard he looked, nothing came through. Days kept slipping by, and with them, Leo's hope. He was on the edge, feeling like he was about to break. Then, just when he thought he had to face the harsh truth and accept that there was nothing more he could do, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, heart pounding. Who could this be? He wondered, praying for good news. "Hello? Am I speaking to the family of Kate Scott?" the voice on the other end asked. Leo was a bit confused. Why would someone be calling about his daughter? Still, he replied, "Yes. Who's asking?" The caller introduced himself. It was the hospital's chief physician. Immediately, Leo tensed up. Every time the hospital called, it usually meant more bad news, but this time was different. The doctor calmly explained that a full payment had just come in, covering the exact amount needed for his daughter's surgery. "We'd appreciate it if you could come in today to go over the paperwork and schedule the operation," he added. Leo didn't respond right away. He was stunned. His mind was racing. Who could have done this? "What money?" he finally asked, still trying to make sense of it. "I'm not sure," the doctor replied. "The funds were transferred directly into our account." "Everything's ready to move forward." The doctor patiently answered all of Leo's questions, but even then, the biggest one remained unanswered. Who would be so generous? Almost no one even knew what his family was going through. Leo, his wife, and little Katie went to the hospital that very day. Even though they couldn't explain what had happened, they were beyond thankful. The doctors wasted no time. Katie was taken in for preparation the same day, and her surgery was completed within 2 days. When the procedure was done, Leo and his wife felt like they could finally breathe again. Their daughter was going to live a full, healthy life. Katie beamed from her hospital bed, smiling wide, like she somehow knew things were going to be different now. Better. Still, one thing kept bothering Leo. No matter how many times he asked the hospital, he got the same answer. They had no idea who had sent the money for the surgery. That fact stuck with him. He wanted to thank the person properly. Now that his daughter was safe and on the road to recovery, Leo made it his mission to find the kind soul who had stepped in to help. He and his wife started reaching out to everyone they knew, asking if they had anything to do with the donation. But each person said no. Whoever had saved their daughter's life didn't want to be known. As they sat by Katie's hospital bed, they both hoped that whoever it was would be blessed for what they had done. What they didn't know was that the person they were looking for was already on their way to visit. Leo looked up and was caught off guard when a familiar woman stepped into the hospital room. As she walked closer, his eyes widened. He knew that face. It was Emily. But she looked nothing like the woman he had pulled out of the snow. She was now dressed in a sharp, professional outfit and carried herself with confidence. Emily gave them a warm smile, and Leo's jaw nearly dropped. His wife greeted her kindly, but Leo's eyes locked on something else, the badge clipped to her clothes. It was her ID, and just like that, it all clicked. Emily wasn't just doing okay. She was the head of a well-known company. No wonder she had seemed familiar that night. Leo stood up and walked over to shake her hand. After his wife and Emily exchanged greetings, he got straight to the point. "Was it you?" he asked. "Did you help our daughter?" Emily gave a small, quiet nod. Yes, it was her. She said it was the least she could do after Leo saved her life when no one else was around. Life has a way of bringing things full circle. You never really know when a small act of kindness will come back to you, sometimes in ways you never expected. So always be kind. Help others when you can, because someday when you need it most, that kindness might find its way back to you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who might need a little hope today. Thanks for watching.